Well, hello. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Today's session is called Getting Accepted with Limited Work Experience. My name is Aimee Akimoff, and I am the Director of Recruitment for Willamette University's MBA program. I am also a graduate of the program, so I can definitely speak a little bit to my own experience in an MBA. Just to give you a little bit of background about Willamette University, if you've never heard about our university before, we are located in Salem, Oregon, on the west coast of the United States. This is the capital city of Oregon. It's about 155,000 people. The university is a private institution, about 3,000 students, and it's unique because it is the first university west of the Mississippi. So it was established in 1842, so it's a very old and well-established university. The university has a College of Liberal Arts, as well as a College of Law, and an MBA program, which is, again, the focus of our topic today. So I'm going to walk through the agenda of what I'm going to be discussing today. We're going to really break this down to the 4 steps to success. And the first step is really conducting the school research, finding the right fit. The first step in applying to an MBA program is finding that right program. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on how to look for an MBA program, especially for those of you who don't have the typical amount of work experience that most MBA programs might be looking for. We're next going to talk about the application process and what that entails. I'll give you some very specific tips on how to apply and some of those things you want to be thinking about during the application process. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the interview. This is a very important part of the application process, and so we're going to spend some time on how to prepare for that, and then how to follow up once you're done with the application process. Then we're going to open it up to Q&A, so you're welcome to ask your questions. If you do have questions during the presentation, feel free to enter those into the chat box, and we will answer those at the end of the program. So to get us started, since the focus of the topic today is specifically on students with limited work experience, I want to kind of talk about the differences in MBA programs. Now, many of you might already know a traditional MBA is usually a 2-year MBA program, typically full-time, and this program usually relies on previous experience. Now, they want this because you then apply that in the classroom. So that could be talking about your work experience, giving examples from your previous experience. Now, these traditional MBAs are kind of the hallmark of the MBA program in the United States. That was really what the MBA program was originally created for, was mid-level, early career managers who are already out in their current career, and they actually want to go back and get those management skills so they can move up in their career. Now, what we have found through our research is that students tend to do very well when they get their MBA earlier in their career. They have more of their career to actually use the benefit of the MBA. Now, the main difference in what we call an early career MBA is that it actually provides that real-world experience in the program itself. It provides career management opportunities and definitely those resume building opportunities for you to actually be gaining that experience while you're pursuing your MBA. So these are 2 different types of MBA programs, and I'm going to be giving some examples of the differences in these MBA programs throughout the presentation. But again, most of my focus will be on Willamette University, mostly because we offer this type of early career MBA, and I'll give you some hard examples that you can actually see how the program differs from a traditional MBA. Now, what to look for in an early career MBA? You really do want to look for that true early career MBA. There are programs out there that do accept students with limited work experience, and of course many of the tips that I'll be giving today will actually help you with admission to those programs. However, in some cases they may be just enveloping you into their regular traditional MBA program, which for many students that's okay because they can handle that the rigor, and they can even take what they've learned in their undergrad and apply that in that program. But again, a true early career MBA has a curriculum that is designed for those early career students because it incorporates that in-depth hands-on experience. It also should have an established mentorship program. This is important because students should be talking to people in their career field. If you're early in your career, you may not actually know exactly what you want to do in your career, but you need to be developing that throughout the MBA program, and a good way to do that is through a mentorship program. You also want that strong career services and placement assistance. This is going to be helpful in the internship process as well as in the job placement process at the end of the program. So you definitely want to be talking to current students and graduates of the program to get their insight into all of these features of the program to make sure you're getting what you need out of your MBA. Okay, I've broken down the process of selecting an MBA program into several C's. This is supposed to sort of help you remember, but of course I'm going to walk through each of these in detail. But as we start, the first C to be looking for is credentials. Now I've given some examples of what to be looking for in MBA program's credentials. The first thing is accreditation. Accreditation is very important because it actually provides some kind of quality or assurance of quality of learning. It actually requires schools to report back to the accrediting body on their quality of learning, their outcomes. And so this actually helps you realize that your school, if you're trying to apply to an MBA program, that school does meet the minimum standards of quality. Now I've given some examples of types of accreditation here. The first one being AACSB. Now this is probably the most common accreditation. It is considered the highest level of accreditation by many MBA programs. And many schools in the U.S. as well as around the world have this type of accreditation. You can definitely look up the website to find schools that are accredited by AACSB as well as the other types of accreditation. EQUIS was accreditation started in Europe, and it's very popular in Europe, but it is now starting to grow worldwide. So many schools even have multiple accreditations. And then AMBA is another example as well. Now, there are types of accreditation that go beyond just business. Just as an example, Willamette MBA is actually dually accredited for both business by AACSB as well as for public administration by NASPA. So you'll find that on the website, and I do encourage you to look at the school's accreditation on their website so you can really understand what type of quality they have been proven to have in their program. And that, again, mostly will be for business, but it could be for other areas as well. Now, the other type of credential is the rankings. And I've, again, listed several different examples of rankings that you can look through. There are actually many more than this. I didn't list them all. And that's probably one of the most important points about rankings is that there are a lot of rankings out there. So it can actually be very difficult to determine a school's ranking or their overall ranking based on all the different rankings together. So I do encourage you to look at the rankings, but I may encourage you not to actually make your final decision based on rankings alone, because there's much more to an MBA program than just their rankings, and rankings fluctuate from year to year. It's also very hard to understand the methodology behind each of these different rankings. One that I might encourage you to look at is Poets and Quants. This is a website that's really helpful for MBA applicants. What they actually have done is created a comprehensive ranking that actually looks at all of the different rankings, or looks at several rankings, and actually combines them and creates sort of a comprehensive ranking of business schools. But do spend time on each of those because, like I said, their methodology is different, and some of them do rank schools by different features. The next C is curriculum. Now, this is very important because you want a school that is designed for your area of interest, your career goals, and you can discover that through their curricular features. Now, for many programs, this starts by looking at their areas of interest. Some schools call this concentrations or not really called majors at the graduate level, but it is kind of similar to majors. In our program, we do call it areas of interest. And by way of an example, I have given you our areas of interest. You can see that there's a number of typical MBA areas of interest. You've got accounting, entrepreneurship, finance, global management, human resources, operations, marketing, organizational analysis, and then we also offer public and not-for-profit management as well as sustainability management. Now, some of these areas might be sort of unique to an MBA program, and you may not see all of these areas of interest offered by all the different MBA programs. So again, if you're looking for a very specific career area, make sure to look at their curriculum and assure that that area is covered and hopefully covered well in the MBA program. Oftentimes, you can also go look at their course descriptions, which I highly recommend as a way to really understand what each of those areas offers and whether you're finding classes that sound like they interest you. Another aspect of curricular features really is the design of the program, and this goes back to what I was saying in the very beginning of the presentation. How is the program designed to help you reach your career goals? Now, just again as an example, I'll talk about Willamette University because we actually offer what we call the Early Career and Career Change MBA. Now, we're designed for students in two different stages of their career. Early career students are recent college graduates who are seeking their first professional position or an early career change. These could be students that are just out of undergrad, or perhaps they've been out for a year or so, not really doing anything towards their career goals. So those students are definitely still early in their career. Career change students are those with at least 2 years of post-bachelor work experience. Now, this is important because most MBA programs actually don't count your work experience until after you've completed your bachelor degree. So even if you've had significant work experience prior to finishing your undergrad degree, or maybe even while you were in your undergrad, most MBA programs are not going to count that work experience. So the time you've actually worked only begins after you graduate with your bachelor's degree. However, career change students are those with at least 2 years of that post-bachelor work experience and with some kind of management or functional responsibilities. As an example, it could be someone who's perhaps been working as an accountant for 2 or 3 years, and then they decide that they would like to change careers, perhaps go into marketing or HR. These students need to retool. They need to get a new set of skills, which is very similar to our early career students. So this is how you can see how we're designed to help students in both stages of their career. Now, the reason why we're designed for students who are early in their career or those who are looking for career change is because of our unique curriculum. It involves experiential electives. Now, experiential electives are courses that actually involve real-world opportunities. It's what we call consequential learning. And that means that your actions in the classes actually have real-world consequences. They are affecting real organizations or they're really having an impact on the world. So just as an example, here are several of our experiential courses that we provide. New Ventures to Launch is a class that allows students to actually start and run their own business. You will see this in some MBA programs. In fact, their entrepreneurial center might be very similar to this, where they can actually start and run their own business. But just as an example, I've got 3 people here who actually were successful entrepreneurs and were also early in their career. So these could be students right out of undergrad who are starting up their own business and very successfully. In the bottom left-hand corner, we had a student who started a cycling clothing gear company and began to sell his clothing in cycling shops. In the middle, we have a student who started a study abroad program specifically for athletes. And this is a really unique opportunity because many times college students who are also athletes aren't usually able to go abroad for during their time in college. And so he really formed a program that was specifically designed for them, where they could do training and they could also get their education abroad while they're in college. And lastly, we had a student who started a gluten-free bread company. It's doing very well here in the Portland, Oregon area. And the thing that all of these students had in common was they were very early in their career. Each of them were right out of undergrad or definitely less than a year of work experience when they started the MBA program. So you can see that this is a successful program that allows our students to start their own business even very early in their career. Another example of an experiential elective is the Student Investment Fund. Now this course allows students to invest real money in the stock market. We have a fund valued at about $500,000 that allows our students to manage that portfolio and invest that money. Now the incentive is that the return that they make, which they have actually made over the existence of the fund, is that it goes back into scholarships. So it's really a great learning tool for students to be able to see how the stock market works. Venture investing is another course within our entrepreneurial program. This program actually allows students to evaluate and invest in real business ideas. So our students become angel investors while they're enrolled in the MBA program. And then lastly, Integrated Marketing Communications is a program that allows students to create a marketing plan for a real organization. And this is a really unique opportunity because they have an opportunity to create advertisements, all different sorts of media for their company that they're working with. So as you can see, all of these courses are designed specifically for students who have not had any experience in these areas. They're getting started either as their first professional career or they're in that career change mode. So that's why this program would be something, again, for students who are early in their career to look at. Okay, moving on from curriculum, the next C is campus life. Now, a good way to look at campus life and to see if you can see yourself as a student on that campus is to look at the student profile. Most MBA programs are going to list their student profile on their website, so this is a good place to start. As an example, Willamette has 100 incoming students, about 40 or 50% of which are international students, with about 20 countries represented, and also a variety of undergraduate majors. We don't require a business undergraduate degree, even as an early career student. So we actually have a variety of backgrounds represented in the MBA program. Everything from social sciences and humanities to math, science, and engineering. And we really encourage that diversity of educational background. So definitely something to look at when you're looking at an MBA program is to consider, do they accept students that don't necessarily have a business undergraduate degree? Student professional organizations is another way to look at whether you could see yourself as a student there. This is a way for students to get involved in leadership opportunities, volunteer opportunities, and also helps with their professional networking. Many of the professional organizations have national conferences that students can attend and build their network. Affiliations and other extracurricular activities are also a way to look at, do they have things that they offer that really provide a strong community for you. That can include things such as what kinds of extracurricular activities do they offer? Are there intramural leagues if you're interested in doing sports, getting out there and exercising a bit while you're in an MBA program? Those are some of the outside of the box things that you want to be thinking about that are maybe not your traditional MBA features that you look at in evaluating the MBA program. The next C is counseling or resources. Now, this is very important because as an early career student, an early career applicant, you may need some additional assistance in different areas. One of those might be in the academic realm, and you want to make sure that you have access to an academic advisor. This usually is a faculty member, but it may be an administrator or a staff member. But you really need someone who can help you decide what courses to take, especially that will help you reach your career goals. You want the career services, and this should hopefully be a number of staff members who are available to meet with you and talk about your career goals, but also even peer advisors. Our program actually offers a program that allows second-year students to meet with first-year students and advise them on their internship search. This is great because it's talking with someone who has just been through the process, and so they're very familiar with what it takes to get an internship. If you're an international student, language assistants are going to be very helpful. These could be ESL tutors or people who can help with looking over your writing or your papers and assist you in that area. Even everyone could use assistance with tutors. This could be in a specific course, perhaps finance or a marketing course. You may have access to a tutor or a teaching assistant who can really help you understand the subject matter that's being taught. And then also some campuses offer a writing center, which can be very helpful because it gives somebody an outside perspective on your paper. If you need assistance with writing a paper, these people can be very helpful in that realm. So having access to these types of resources on campus are going to be very important, again, especially as an early career student. The other C is career opportunities. Now, career is a very important thing in an MBA program, obviously because you want to get one. You want to get a job when you finish the MBA program. So the first thing to look at when you're evaluating an MBA program is the career outcomes. Now, just as an example, so that you can see how MBA programs typically record these statistics, usually MBA programs talk about how many completed an internship. So for example, at Willamette MBA, 90% completed an internship. 83% received a job offer within 3 months. Now, that's kind of the standard reporting for most MBA programs. So they're going to be saying what percentage of their students got a job offer within that 3-month after graduation time frame. It's a nice way to sort of compare apples to apples, although you should really take into consideration where do most of the graduates go after they finish their MBA program, what kind of industries do they go into, and all of those sorts of things. So definitely want to look at all the different aspects of career outcomes. Now, what types of opportunities should you be getting in an MBA program? Well, those are listed below, and some of those include company treks, where students actually get to go visit companies. This is great because it allows you to explore the culture. It allows you to actually see what is the company like from the inside, not just the outside perspective, the researching the company and that sort of thing. This allows you an inside perspective. Informational interviews. These are fantastic because they help you, again, get that inside perspective into an industry or even perhaps into a company that you're interested in. We encourage our students to do a number of informational interviews prior to them even starting the internship search process, because this really allows students to gather that information well ahead of when they are actually going to apply. Career fairs. Students should have access to a number of career fairs, and these could be MBA level career fairs. Many of the conferences that I mentioned earlier offer career fairs along with their conferences. So this is a great place to look, to meet with potential employers, network with different people in the industry that you're interested in. I already talked about mentorships, but this is a huge piece in the career opportunities as well. And lastly, internship. This is really an important part of the first step in getting a job. Oftentimes, students' internship actually leads to their job opportunity. So again, that is something really to look at as an important piece of an MBA program. This is one of the main differences between 1- and 2-year MBA programs. An MBA program that is 2 years is usually going to incorporate that internship experience. There are some 1-year programs or programs that are less time that do include an internship component. But in a 2-year MBA program, you're going to get the fullest internship experience you can get. As an example, at Willamette MBA, our students have the opportunity to do not only an internship in the summer between 1st and 2nd year, but they actually have the opportunity to continue their internship in the 2nd year as well. And this is important because for students who are early in their career, they're actually getting to build their work experience during the MBA program. They're actually building their resume while they're pursuing their MBA. So again, really important piece of an MBA program is to look at those internship opportunities. One C that everybody hates to talk about is the costs, but it is important. It's important to look at, and more importantly, it's important to look at the financial resources. What are those resources there that are available to actually assist you with the cost? Now, first talking about the costs, MBA programs definitely list their cost in different ways, but the main components are usually tuition, living expenses, and then other fees. Some of those other fees you want to be looking at are the health or insurance fee, book fees, any types of other fees that they may include in that. So you want to make sure to review those costs and really think about whether that school is affordable to you. Now, if you think it is out of your realm of affordability, make sure to look at some of those resources. Those resources are things like merit-based scholarships. Now, merit-based scholarships are things that directly reduce your tuition amount. Most MBA programs have some sort of merit-based scholarship assistance. Now, you'll want to check with them on how they offer that, if it's through just a tuition reduction or if it's through some kind of a work program. You also want to find out how to apply for that. Some MBA programs include it in their admission application. Other programs require a separate application. So make sure to ask the school how to apply for scholarships. Another form of resources to help you fund your studies is graduate assistantships. Now, this is technically working while you're in school, and it usually is working with a faculty member or maybe an administrator on a part-time basis while you're in school. This is great because graduate assistantships really work well with your schedule. Faculty and administrators tend to know how your school schedule is working. They are more accommodating for students who are currently enrolled in school. There is other on-campus employment opportunities, especially if you're near an undergraduate campus. Oftentimes they will have job opportunities available in the undergraduate side. For example, maybe working in the library or working as a staff member in one of the other offices available on campus. There are loans. However, I do say limited. U.S. students have more access to loans through the federal government. International students, it's very limited. So that I would definitely say you want to research through whatever your status is. For U.S. students, all you have to do is fill out the FAFSA, and that will allow you access to federal loans. Actually, U.S. students have access to loan up to the entire amount that they need for their education. So the limited part is really more for international students. But just remember, it's definitely an investment. If you remember it that way, then it'll help you understand that if you have to use your own resources or borrow money, this is definitely a very good investment. Okay, now we're going to be moving on to the application part of the program. So if you're ready to apply, here are some things that you want to remember. First and foremost, be honest and realistic during the application process. This is really important because we're learning about you and you're learning about us, and we want to make sure that it's a good fit. So being honest and realistic about your career goals is going to be the best way for us to understand if you are the right fit for our program. Talk about not only what you want to gain from the program, but really what you hope to contribute. This is really important because MBA programs are looking for a diverse class that can really learn, help each other learn from each other. So we're looking for students that can bring something unique to the MBA program that's going to help provide something interesting to that class environment. Much of the class environments involve a lot of discussion, and so we want students who can really contribute to those discussions with interesting and unique characteristics. So how you do that is to know about the program and its culture. You can really understand more about how to contribute to a program by knowing about the program itself. So all of those C's I talked about earlier is how you get to know about the program and the culture. So now that you've kind of understood how, or understand as much as you can about the MBA program, the next step is really to go ahead and apply and to be able to relay that information to the admission office so that they can understand how the program is a good fit. Now this is the application process. It's just an overview, so some programs might be different, slightly different in this variation, but definitely there's going to be similar components to every MBA application. You've got your online application. Many programs have online applications that you can log into as you need to complete the application. So definitely take your time to work through all of the requirements on the application itself. Most programs are going to require some transcripts, 2 letters of recommendation, either a GMAT or a GRE score. Again, it might depend on the MBA program. Some schools don't accept the GRE. Some schools say it's up to you, so want to ask the school what they require. And of course, there's the interview as part of the process as well. Now for international applicants, there are some additional requirements. Many schools have a TOEFL or IELTS requirement. This is the English language test. And mostly there is going to be a minimum required score. Now in some cases there might be a waiver consideration for students who've done their entire undergraduate in English. So if you've done that, you need to make sure to ask the school what their policy is. And lastly, there's also the I-20 and financial documentation required for international students as well. Now I just want to make a point for Willamette that applicants who do complete all of these documents are considered for merit-based scholarships, and our scholarships actually range from 10% all the way up to 100% of tuition. So it's really important to submit the best quality applications you can in order to maximize that consideration. So now I'm actually going to go through some tips on each of these application requirements. But the first thing to talk about is deadlines. Deadlines are really important because they may actually provide you greater consideration for admission or scholarships the earlier you apply. In some cases, schools go by rounds. Other schools just have application deadlines to encourage you to apply early. So obviously the most important thing is don't make an excuse for missing a deadline. If you know you want to meet a certain deadline, put it on your calendar and then work backwards from there to make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to complete all of the requirements by the deadline. Now generally when a school has an enrollment term, that's usually in the fall, the application time frame is going to be about 1 year before the beginning of the program. So you want to try to think about applying or submitting most of your documents about 1 year before you actually want to enroll in the program. Just to kind of give you an example, Willamette MBA application deadlines are listed here on the screen. So for example, we have an early action deadline in December, another one in February, and a third one in March, and our final deadline is May 1st. So this is all kind of to give you an idea of sort of what time frame you can plan to apply by. Now for us, our early action deadlines are all higher consideration for scholarships. So again, if scholarships are your priority, you want to apply earlier in the process. Speaking to early career students, so those with limited work experience, you may be applying during your undergrad, which is wonderful for those who are planning to pursue your MBA right after undergrad. So again, these deadlines are going to be even more important for you because you are going to not only have to meet those deadlines, but you're also going to have to work around your academic schedule, trying to not mix your finals with trying to study for the GMAT or GRE. So you definitely want to take all of these into consideration to realize when is the best time for you to apply. I often advise undergrad students who are trying to apply during their senior year to apply maybe during the fall semester, but you can perhaps maybe wait to take the GMAT or GRE, or I should say not wait, but take it during the summer before senior year, or take it during the holiday break between the semesters or between during the holiday time frame. That can be nice because it allows you to not have to mix your school, your current academic schedule with your studying for the GMAT or GRE. When you start the process of applying, you're definitely going to be communicating with the school. Now, this is definitely for students, who are starting to email the school. Maybe you're emailing the admission office. You want to make sure to remember to be as professional as possible. This means avoiding the slang and text abbreviations in your emails. And the reason why is because we're really starting that evaluation process as soon as you start communicating with us. While we may not put your emails in your application file, we're kind of mentally noting your professionalism while you're communicating with us. So make sure to be as professional as possible. Also make sure to watch for those emails and respond to them in a timely manner. This can really be helpful for us who are communicating with you about your application status. And also use just one email address so that we don't have confusion about who we're corresponding with. This is mostly for international students, but if you are using an agent or a counselor, please keep in mind that you have to be the one communicating with us. We cannot work through an agent for someone who's actually applying to the school. Oh, the dreaded GMAT or GRE. This is definitely one of the challenges of the application process. Many students really don't look forward to this, and I don't blame you. It's a standardized test, and oftentimes it can bring on a lot of stress, and that makes it very difficult in the application process. But there are some things you can do to help ease that stress and really prepare you for the test so that you can go into it confidently. First of all, for schools that do accept both tests, you want to review both of them. You want to make sure that you are picking the one that's best suited to your strengths. There's definitely some logistics of each of those tests. They are slightly different, but kind of similar too. So make sure to look at both of them and see which one might be better suited for you. Start brushing up on those math and verbal skills. I give some examples here of some books that we usually recommend. Math Review for Standardized Tests. This is a Cliff Notes book, and it's really helpful because it does prepare for both the GMAT and the GRE. And it really takes you through each of the math skills in their sections. So it allows you to kind of review how much you need to go back and relearn some of those things that you learned back in high school. Because that really is the highest level of math that is tested on both the GMAT and the GRE. There are full-length practice tests on princetonreview.com, and many schools actually offer GMAT and GRE preparation sessions. As an example, we offered some online GMAT GRE preparation webinars that are available on our website. I know Beat the GMAT is also a great place to go as well, so that's probably a place to look at for resources as well. Many schools have a retake policy on the GMAT or GRE. So just as an example, I've given our policy so you can kind of see how that works. So for example, in our program, if you do not get at least a 500 on the GMAT the first time, or the equivalent on the GRE, then we will ask for a retake. So that's important to know because if you're not meeting that minimum, some schools may immediately deny you, but other schools will say, we'll give you another shot. So definitely want to find out which what type of school that program is, if they're offering you that second opportunity, or if you just really have to meet that minimum GMAT requirement to begin with. Now this is just to sort of tell you how much time you need to give yourself to prepare. This is some research that was done by MBA.com that actually administers the GMAT, but it shows you in a graph about how many hours students need to prepare to get to a certain score level. So you can see on the left there, if you're aiming for a 600 to a 590 or anywhere in between there, then you're really going to be wanting to get at least 60 hours of preparation in. Above a 700 and you're going for 80 hours. So that's a lot of time. If you're trying to manage your undergraduate education and trying to manage all those things that you're doing, that's a lot of hours that you have to put into the GMAT preparation. So just make sure to remember that whatever score you're aiming for, you really need to put that proper time and preparation into studying. Okay, moving on to recommendations. These are important because it really starts to show us beyond just your numbers and your scores who you really are. Now, most schools are going to require 2 or 3 recommendations. As a recent undergrad or, again, someone with limited work experience, the preference is probably going to be on getting an academic reference. So this is somebody that, a faculty member or somebody who knows you in an academic setting and really has direct knowledge of your abilities and characteristics. This is important because we want someone who really has seen how you can perform in different realms, and that could be in team environments or individual performance. We kind of want to know about all of that. Most programs make you responsible for asking your references to submit a letter of recommendation, so make sure to keep that in mind when you're filling out your application. And really make sure to give them enough time to prepare your recommendation. I can't stress this enough. We get a lot of students who really think that they can just ask their recommender a couple days before they need their recommendation, and that's usually not enough time. Faculty are very busy people, so you need to give them plenty of time. In fact, give them a couple days or a few days or maybe even a week before your recommendation letter is actually due, so that you can make sure to get that letter back, or at least give them time to remind them if they haven't given it to you by that deadline. Essays. This is important because a lot of schools are going to require either essays or maybe a personal statement. I will say most MBA programs are starting to lean towards essays rather than personal statements, just because essays give you more opportunity to really kind of tailor the responses. We want to know specific information about you, so we're going to have application essays instead of a personal statement. Make sure to read the question and answer what's being asked. This is important because sometimes students try to fit in an essay that they've written for another school, and it doesn't always work. So in fact, it rarely works. So really be sure to write the essay for each school that you're applying to. When you're writing your essay, make sure to tell your story. I think it's always nice to be personal, but you also want to relate that to your career goals. So always be talking about how this relates back to your career goals, or why you're planning to pursue an MBA. And the word length is important. A lot of times it is a suggestion, but you want to try to stay as close to that as possible. Don't write way over the word limit, and don't write way under the word limit, because both of those are not going to give us an accurate depiction of you as an applicant. Okay, talking about the interview. Most schools, once you've gotten past all of the application requirements, they may invite you for an interview. So this is going to be an important part of the process, because it now brings us to past all of your scores, your test scores, your grades, even your recommendations. This allows us to get to know you better and for you to get to know us better. So the first thing is you should be prepared for any type of interview. Could be an in-person interview. In fact, sometimes schools send their alumni to go interview. It could be a Skype, or it could be a telephone interview if you are located from a long distance away from the school. And it could be with anyone. It could be admission staff, it could be faculty, or it could be an alum. Some schools actually have committees who do interviews, so definitely be prepared for anything. If you are doing a telephone interview, one of my best recommendations, definitely speak clearly, slowly, and also remember to smile. It really can help the sort of overall feeling of the interview, because if you can project that you are enjoying it, it'll definitely come across on the telephone. So to help you prepare for this interview, I have an interview prep worksheet that I'm going to show you next. But what this does is it allows you to create a list of accomplishments and challenges that you can refer to during the interview. Now, the reason this is important is because oftentimes schools ask you questions during the interview that are based on your previous experience. And again, those with limited work experience, you're going to want to draw from your academic experience, perhaps volunteer experiences, or any other type of other experience that you've had. So this is what an interview preparation worksheet looks like. Essentially, you see the skills down the left-hand side, and up across the top is the different types of experiences you've had. Again, academic, could be work, and it could be extracurricular. I think it's good to try to come up with as many examples of each of these different areas as possible, so that during the interview you can refer to a variety of different experiences that you've had. MBA programs often are looking for teamwork experience, so you could come up with examples from your academic background, whether you worked in an academic team. You could also talk about extracurricular, whether you played a sport, a team sport. These are all great examples to bring up during an interview. So the last thing to do is follow up. After you've had your interview, I always recommend sending some kind of a thank you. It could be email or card to those you worked with during the application process. And I recommend this because it's really not very common, and it really does set you apart as an applicant. Students really who do take that extra step, it's really a nice gesture. It may not help make an admission decision, but it's just a very nice gesture, and it shows professionalism. Be patient as your documents are being reviewed. Sometimes it can take a little time to get all those documents entered into our system and for us to make a decision. You are welcome to call or email to ask about your application status, but just be courteous and be patient if the school doesn't have an answer for you yet. If you follow some of these tips, I think that you could be successful in your MBA application. I think a lot of it comes down to exactly what I said earlier, is it all depends on, are you a good fit for the program, and how well can you relay that to the school, and does the school see you as a good fit for the program? But by doing some of these things, I think that you can definitely help, first of all, find the right program, and then second of all, create a very successful application. So that wraps up my presentation. I'm definitely going to open it up now to some Q&A. I do have some links up there. You're welcome to join us on Facebook or Twitter. We are happy to answer any of your questions now. And also you can connect with us on those other links to ask us questions at a later time. Okay, we got some questions already coming in. This is great. How do business schools judge the quality of work experience with other factors like GMAT, GPA? Okay, this is a great question. So a lot of times students ask, how do schools look at the quality of the work experience? Not just the amount that you've had, but how do they actually evaluate the quality? This could be different from school to school, but I will tell you, if a school requires work experience, they're definitely going to be looking at quality as well. They could be evaluating that through your management responsibilities or through your functional responsibilities. They may want to see that you've had some kind of supervisory experience. It really just depends on what type of experience the school is asking you for. Here at Willamette MBA, like I said, we don't require work experience. So even if you have experience, we'll definitely be looking at that for admission and mostly for scholarships. But for quality, that for us is not as important because you're going to be building your experience in the program itself. Okay, the next question I have here is how can you be accepted with limited work experience? If you've taken some time off after graduation and take up internships and other things during that time, would those count? That is a great question. So if you've taken time off after graduation, perhaps you had a year abroad or decided to travel for a bit. If you have internships, it really, again, this depends on the MBA program. For an MBA program that requires work experience and is that's a very important part of the application process, they may not count internships. However, some schools do, and again, a lot of times it comes down back to the quality of the internship. Did you have management experience or some kind of higher level experience in that internship? But again, I think a lot of what it takes to get accepted with limited work experience is really showing that you have what it takes to succeed in that MBA program, that you have something to contribute that maybe others don't, that have either a similar or maybe even more work experience than you do. Okay, next question, talking about the C that nobody likes to talk about, the costs. The question is, at Willamette, what is the total fee for the program and how to arrange the funds? Well, our fees, every school, their fees change from year to year, so most schools I should say. So at Willamette, our fees for this coming year are right around $35,000. As I said, it's a 2-year MBA program, and that is for tuition only. I would say the number one way to prepare to pay that cost is really to apply and be considered for scholarships. Scholarships is a really good way to help fund your studies, but like I said, the other ways are graduate assistantships, and in some cases loans, or perhaps you can ask for assistance from family members or other people that are close to you. We get a lot of our, especially international students, who really have to go outside of their small circle and really try to find ways to get funding for their program. Most students do bring their own funding to the MBA program. Not a lot of our students are totally and completely fully funded. Okay, the next question here, would you consider a PhD as work experience? I do consider as work experience as it involves skills such as project and time management, communication skills. This is a great question, and I think for a lot of MBA programs, they're going to really want to know, why do you want to go from a PhD to an MBA? I can definitely see the value in that if you want to get that management experience and go on to a management level career. But definitely you'll want to talk about going from a PhD to an MBA. As far as the actual work experience, schools are going to differ on this. Some schools are going to say that that is work experience because, again, you're going to be, in some cases, PhD candidates are teaching or, you know, again, providing, getting project management skills, things like that. Some MBA programs are going to treat it just like experience that is done in undergrad, where they won't really count it because they count it as your time in education. So really, that's a question you want to ask each and every school that you're trying to apply to. Okay, next question. I saw a lot of essays in which we are asked about the long-term goals. I have 2.5 years of experience and I'm not clear about my long-term goal. What do you advise me to write? This is really a good question because you're right that most essay questions are going to be asking something about what are your career goals, where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years, and if you're earlier in your career you may not actually have an answer for that yet. I definitely go back to what I recommended earlier, and that's be honest and realistic. You don't necessarily have to know exactly what you want to do, but you have to know that an MBA is a step in the right direction towards your career goals. You can definitely talk a little bit about some of the different areas that you've explored. I would even actually use your 2.5 years of experience to talk about how you've done that during that time and how that has led you to decide to do an MBA. I think that's probably the best direction you're going to be able to go in writing those essays. Okay, next question. Would you consider a student who has done their MBA already from a university in India and now wants to pursue an MBA? So perhaps going from an MBA in marketing to an MBA in finance, which would definitely be doubling up your MBA. I will tell you that because MBA programs are so different around the world, we actually don't look down on that at all. We've had students who have completed their MBA in a different country and then have come to our program to complete their MBA here. One of the values in doing that is that our program allows for the internship opportunities. There also are opportunities to stay and work in the U.S. for up to 1 year through the OPT, the Optional Practical Training Program. So students, actually international students especially, have the opportunity to actually stay and work in the U.S. for a short time after they've completed the MBA. So I think that that's very valuable in pursuing additional career opportunities even beyond what you've already completed. In many cases it's an individual choice, and I think if this is something you want to pursue, which is a second MBA, and you can really identify that that's what you need to do to reach your career goals, then that's going to be the best thing that you can do. And so you just need to convince the MBA program of that. So I think we are done with questions. So like I said, thank you so much for joining me here today. You can definitely connect with us on Facebook or even on Twitter. And I'm also on Beat the GMAT, so you're welcome to connect with me there. My email address, I don't have it listed, but it's aakimoff@willamette.edu. Again, you can find me on Beat the GMAT to ask more questions as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me here today, and I wish you all the best of luck in your search.